Hi students, welcome to Shekhar's History classes. In this video, we will analyze this question. Trace the development of land reforms in India between 1947 and early 1960s. Land reforms is very important topic in post-independence India. It is one of the most important reforms and also one of the most controversial reforms that are undertaken by Indian government after independence. Let us analyze what was the need of land reforms after independence. If we see during British Raj, British government has brought certain reforms in land distribution. If we take during the time period of Lord Cornwallis, he brought permanent settlement in Bengal region. And later, Thomas Munro in Madras Presidency, he brought reforms called Ryotwari settlement area. And so permanent settlement in Bengal, Ryotwari settlement in Madras and Bombay Presidency, and in the northwestern part of India, Mahalwari settlement came. So Jamindari, permanent settlement or Jamindari settlement, and Ryotwari settlement and Mahalwari settlement. Because of these reforms within the British Raj created huge inequalities in the society, and the land distribution was unequal in nature, and it led to absentee landlordism also, because the jamindars who bought the lands, they have given on lease to other landlord, and this landlord once again passed the land to other person. So likewise there was chain of landlords, but ultimately the burden was faced by the person who is cultivating on the ground, and above him there are so many absentee landlords, and the whatever product produced by the farmer, it had to be shared by all these people in the chain. So list of intermediaries were created during British Raj. Now this has created immense trouble on the agrarian sector, and the peasant who is cultivating, who is the tiller of the land, is getting nothing. So because of these challenges, after independence, Indian government sought to reform this anomaly. And also exploitation of the tenants. Tenants became tenants at will. There is no protection of the tenants, and this exploitation of the tenants made impoverishment in the rural areas. In addition to that, the land holding also fragmented across the Indian subcontinent. And because of this, the irrigation facilities and the transportation facilities became very difficult due to fragmentation of land holding. In order to solve all these problems, Indian government after independence tried to reform these problems. And in the process, we can categorize these land reforms into 5 different parts, like Jamindari abolition, one type of land reform, tenancy reforms is another type of land reform, ceiling on land holdings, consolidation of land holdings, and compilation and updating of land records. These are the 5 major land reforms undertaken by the governments, and moreover, after independence, India followed federal type of system. So federal government, that means union government or central government, has certain laws, and state governments has certain laws. Now in the federal setup, land was given to state list. In the constitution which was adopted by the India, which was adopted by India in 1950, has brought less land into state list. Because of this, now states had to take this reform. Because of the states' involvement in the reforms of these land reforms, different results emerged and different legislations emerged across India. Here land is in the state list, and because of this, some states reformed the land reforms very fast, some were very slow. For example, Kerala, West Bengal, Jammu and Kashmir, they reformed land reforms very fast, but in some other parts of the country these reforms were very slow. And these are the variations within the land reforms. There is, in addition to this, there was another movement called Bhudan and Gramdan movement. It is like a people's movement. It was led by famous Gandhian Vinoba Bhave. During freedom struggle also, Vinoba Bhave was famous for beginning the individual satyagraha in 1940. So this Vinoba Bhave, he started Bhudan and Gramdan movement after 1950. So he started this movement. This was a movement to voluntarily renounce the land rights. He tried to persuade the landowners or jamindars to renounce their land rights so that tillers and tenants will become the owners of the land. So this is a natural movement and people's movement from below. However, this had certain issues. Bhudan and Gramdan movement, the land which was donated by the jamindars and landlords, most of the lands were infertile and they could not be used for irrigation or cultivation. So unused land was donated, and some of these lands were in disputes, and these landholders has donated these type of lands to the tillers. So these are some of the limitations of Bhudan and Gramdan movement. And why in India the land reforms problem became very severe, and even today also the land reforms could not become successful. Up to certain extent they became successful, but more or less we can say that it was not successful. Here critical analysis is what were the reasons for this. One is records were not properly maintained during British Raj also, and after independence also this problem persisted. Because of this, finding the ownership becomes very difficult, and Binami land holdings also became common practice. In our constitution, land became a right to property. Land became a property, and right to property was initially given in the constitution. Because of this, whenever states tried to bring legislation, it violated the fundamental right, and many cases were filed in the judiciary, and many legal battles started, and they continuously dragged for many years. States could not successfully implement these land reforms. And also across India there is no uniformity because the land is in the state list, and different states passed different type of legislations according to their local needs. Because of this there was no uniformity, and land reforms could not become successful across the country. And in case of tenant reforms, there were only oral leases, there was no rent receipt and no proper record maintenance. And sometimes whenever the landowners saw these tenants as threat to their ownership, they were made illegal evictions, and these tenants became tenants at will. And this is the new kind of problem that emerged during British Raj. Also same problem, after independence also this problem continued. So because of all these issues, land reforms were not successful as they were expected. But when India got independence, to maintain socialistic pattern of society, to maintain egalitarian society, and to distribute the land and to reduce the inequalities within society, land reforms were started with so much enthusiasm. But in the practical, when it comes to implementation, different states followed different approaches, and constitutionalism and also pending cases in the judiciary all made it complex phenomena. Because of this, land reforms in India between 1947 and early 1960s could not become successful, and as a result it has led to new movements also. For example, Naxal movement, it has one of the reasons for Naxal movement was due to the failure of land reforms. So these are some of the consequences of land reforms. So this is about this question: trace the development of land reforms in India between 1947 and early 1960s. Thank you.